In a short stretch of time from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, a relatively small group of people started playing around with this thing called the World Wide Web. They had the audacity to think they just might change the world. This project introduces you to the OG players from those hallowed days and lets them tell you what it was like and how you should have been there. Episode 21. Today we're talking to Arthur, Ceria, and Jackson Wang. We're going to get creative today. It's going to be exciting. Ritesh, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It must be noon. It must be Friday. We are together again.
It must be you should have been there.
You should have been there.
You got to stop meeting like this. People are going to start talking.
Especially after 21 episodes.
Can you believe we made 21 episodes?
Can't believe it.
It's
started with an idea of a gin and tonic, and here we are. Look at that.
Yeah, I know. And now we need a gin and tonic.
Exactly.
Well, this is going to be a fun one. Let's do the housekeeping. Go to youshoulda.com if you want to see past episodes, upcoming guests, things like that. I haven't been keeping up the upcoming guests too well, but so you'll see past episodes. We'll get there. This is an informal thing, you know. If you are watching and you know these two crazy cats, or you want to heckle, you can do that.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on the comments.
We'll shout you out. And then, of course, please subscribe. Go to the YouTube channel. If you're not there right now, go to the YouTube channel from youshoulda.com. Click on subscribe. We are 3 people short of a vanity URL, and it's all about the vanity URL.
Yes. We need to be vain.
We do need to be vain. Well, we already are.
We already are. Okay.
We need to validate our vanity.
Yeah.
Let's bring these crazy cats on.
My goodness.
Jackson.
Look at that.
Arthur.
Hello.
So good to see you guys. So good.
Fantastic. Great to see you.
A little royal. You know what I mean?
Le Royale. with fries.
Well, this is super exciting. This is I love bringing on the creative folks. We've had on sales folks. We've had on clients. We've had on had a couple of creative folks. We had Ben Jones on. We had Scott Major on.
Don't forget the geeks last week. We had Woodbridge.
We had Woodbridge on.
Come on.
They had heard there's this program called Photoshop. They're thinking about looking into it.
I know.
Flash is a good one. Flash is a good one to look into right now.
Yeah, Flash is going to be big.
What happened to Flash? Where is Flash? Right? I received notice like on the browser saying, please turn off your Flash. This is not going to be supported anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
what?
Yeah. Your entire existence for a decade is being retired.
Yeah, it was really hard I was trying to find examples of like old work, Flash work from agency.com, and I was like, man, you can't even look at it because you can't download the plugin.
Yeah.
Dude, I have a video of the San Antonio work that you guys did. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
The San Antonio website where HD had it connected to his Palm Pilot, and Falkert had created this movable navigation thing around the map using Flash. I have a video of it somewhere. I'm going to have to
You know what I loved is how we launched website. I don't know if you remember on Broadway. So on Broadway, each time there was a big launch, and at first when I toured the office, there was a red button.
The big red button.
This guy was like, okay, man, we're going to launch this thing. So everybody stopped and they pushed on the button, and suddenly the thing was live, and I was like,
It's all about ceremony.
That was my interview process, and I was like, shit, man, I'm not gonna. It was so good.
That was Scott Major who came up with that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Greg aggregated everyone. It was like, okay, guys, 5, 4, 3.
That was it. And the secret was it was just the big red button. All it did was reload a web page. No one else knew that.
Efficient for the client. It was superb.
It was really good.
Underneath it's just a mouse, right?
It was.
What
Scott did was he disassembled a mouse. He went to Radio Shack and he bought big red button components, took the insides of a mouse, and when you hit the button, it literally clicked it. So you had to position the cursor over the reload button.
Click the red button on the left side.
Then, and then you'd bring the client in, after you had it all set up and you made sure it was going to work.
That was good.
Fantastic.
That was
anyway, well, let's get started. Why don't you guys just give us a quick intro, 30 seconds on who you are, what you're doing now, and then we'll dial back the Wayback Machine and dig in.
So Jackson.
All right, I'll start. So I'm currently based in the LA area. I'm specifically Redondo Beach. Yeah. So do I start from the very beginning?
No. What are you doing now? What are you doing now?
Okay. Yeah. So I've been in mobile games for the past 12 years. I moved out in California about 12 years ago as well. So I worked at Zynga, which actually, interestingly enough, we'll talk more about that later, but it felt like working at agency.com where we're trying to figure stuff out, right? We wanted to do something, we figured it out how to do it, and did a stint at Mercedes-Benz because I got tired of working on games. Went back to Zynga, and I've been worked at Mattel. Now I'm at Jam City. We work on. I'm the director of UI UX of the San Francisco studio, even though I work remotely in LA. We work on they're mostly social games, like if you're familiar with Candy Crush or, so there's a particular audience that plays those puzzle games, those social games. But there's one that I really love is the Harry Potter's Hogwarts Mystery. As a Harry Potter fan, I played that game even before I joined James City. I've been in James City for almost a year. But just bringing the story and like music and elements, all those great things into an interactive format and be able to play that on a mobile device, especially with my daughter, which is just fantastic.
That's so cool.
That's Kyle and I were talking about before in the before. It's like, how do you find that sweet spot of like where you really want to focus on your career? And I think it's games for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. Awesome.
So I'm Arthur Ceria. I've known Ritesh now for 60 years, I believe. I started actually through design. So I arrived in New York in '97. I'm French originally, and then I met two guys, Chris Needham and Ben Jones, and they were ex-Yaleys, and that's how I got hooked up with Kyle and then Ritesh. So it's crazy. Right now, currently, I'm VP, Executive Creative Director at Philip Morris International, and my career has been really in advertising and digital. After agency, I went to Euro, where I hired Ritesh. He became chief technology officer around the world while I was back in the office. And then I got poached to Ogilvy, started Ogilvy San Francisco, ran that for 4 years. And then for 15 years, I was my own boss. And I thought, you know what? If Kyle did it, I should do it. and that was a great run. I had an agency called Creative Feed. We had an office in San Francisco, Paris, New York. And 4 years ago, an old friend of mine and colleague and my boss, Marion Salzman, called me and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm moving to," I said, "You're going to Philip Morris International? What are you going to do there?" And she's like, "Well, they're on a mission to change their business entirely." And I was like, "That's interesting." And so it's big challenge, just like when the web started. It's transforming 1 billion smokers into something that is a lot less harmful. Wow. So it's been kind of a crazy ride, and the adventure continues. And I love what I'm doing. And
that's cool. Well, let's dig in. I don't care who goes first, but where we like to start here is, like we say, at the beginning. And so talk to us about, what were you doing at the time, before you discovered the web, whether you were at agency.com first or not, what was your path to discovering the web and sort of realizing there was something there that you wanted to do?
Arthur, you want to go?
I'll go first. So grad school, Yale University, 2 computers in one corner, and people like hacking away and actually emailing each other throughout the continent. And I was like, what is that thing? And
what were you studying there?
Graphic design.
Oh, okay.
So it was in the art school, but what was great, it was at the moment where you had architecture, design, photography, computer science, all this coming together. Mm-hmm. And it was really at the time you had Nike Town, you had all those experiences that were like starting to happen with a lot of digital interaction and so
right.
forth.
Yeah, a lot of those mixed media kind of experiences. That's right.
Exactly, where people were like, "Wow, the museum needs to change, and experience needs to change, and design needs to change." So
retail needs to change. Yeah.
Exactly, the experience, right? So that was 20 years ago, or even longer, or earlier, and
not that long ago.
Yeah, exactly. And then so graduated and came to New York, worked for a year on the Basketball Hall of Fame of all places, because in Springfield, Mass, we designed that and designed the experience. And then I met a friend who was at Yale who said, "Oh, you should really talk to this guy. His name is Chris Needham." And I was like, "Who?" Okay. So I met Chris, and it was literally at that little diner on Broadway where you guys went all the time. And we started to chat, and he was like, "Look, man, this is a crazy company. We're launching all those websites, but it's growing really fast. You should come on board." I was like, "What?" So this is where I did the tour of agency.com, and I saw the big red button to launch a website. And I was like, "Okay, this is insane. That's fun."
Yeah.
And
that was probably like that was sort of kind of the pinnacle of the creative, like sort of the creative explosion.
That's when that's when the creative function was really exploding.
Yeah. And he started. He was the executive director, and I remember he hired Ben Jones, and that's how I got there. And then you started to see, it's great to have creative around because we can always blame them. We don't have to blame the tech department. So it's their crazy ideas. It's just because tech don't, you know what I mean? So that became good. So you had a bunch of creative director, and it was starting to become the integration thing, right? So you started to have like an account person and a tech person and strategy. Ben was married to a strategist, and then you had like those pods. But what's fascinating, it was a true. I mean, there was.
So is that why you joined us when you took the tour?
The people.
Thought, you know what? Wow.
The people,
right?
The people. I mean, Ben and Chris were just like really kind of inspiring, because they were like, "Look, man, we're writing the book, and there's no book, there's no chapter yet, and why don't you come and help us?" And
did you have an epiphany about the web, or was it kind of all intermingled with all these other disciplines? Like, did you have a moment, like either before you got to agency or after, where it hit you what this thing was all about?
It's just the speed at which it was evolving was astonishing, right? So you were there and you were starting to see, okay, you can contact people, you can search everything that you like in the beginning. And it was, Yahoo was starting to really be big at that point, Netscape.
Yeah.
And so you started to feel like, okay, we were all seen as, that's nothing. That's a fade. And I remember like the big projects, like the Discovery Project. I don't know if you remember that, but we sold binders of Discovery. What was great is we had Colgate, and we sold those things for, I can't even say it on public television here, but it was just amazing. But what was great is that suddenly all Madison Avenue were like feeling super threatened.
Yeah,
and I remember
they were feeling super threatened because we kept winning money, kept winning accounts from them. I remember John Wren from Omnicom and Tom Watson were in our office, and they were sniffing around. This was at Avenue of the Americas at the Time Life building, and at one point, Chan or I said, "Hey, not sure if you're aware of this, but like we've won like $500,000 of business from your agencies in the past couple of months." And John Wren goes, "Oh, we're very well aware of that." So it was crazy times. So Jackson, how about you? What was your pathway to the promised land?
Yeah. So when I was an undergrad, I think I was one of the few people that were actually doing a multimedia project. This was like 1997. I graduated around there, and I did I wanted to do, how like you used to buy a CD ROM of music,
CD-ROM.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then have like an interactive piece if you put it on
Oh,
board,
right. Built
right?
into
And
the thing.
it'd be like music clips and stuff like that. Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to. That's what I wanted to do for my career, right? So I did one on Marvin Gaye, and I loved it because I was using Director. That was like before they had Flash.
Yeah.
And then I think Flash was the one that actually hooked me. I was like, oh my God, you could publish work online and have people view it, right? And as a designer, it was really, and it was much easier than Director. Well, it was until they started adding ActionScript and stuff like that. But I think that was for me what clicked for me.
What was it?
I started my career in Atlanta.
That you could put it out to the world is what clicked for you?
Yeah, just so people can publish content online. And I was working in Atlanta. I was doing it was quite boring, but it was pretty good. It was basically it was an interactive arm of a graphic design studio. It's called EAI, but they did annual reports. One of our big clients was IBM, so we would do the interactive part of it. And there was a glossy part of the annual report, like basically like this is what the company is doing, and it was beautiful typography and everything like that, and we had to translate that the print version
to a CD,
online.
Right?
Oh no, this was online. This was
online now already. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And then you had all the financial part of it had to be immaculately like formatted and gridded and everything like that. And then at some point, I got a call from PJ Lochran.
I remember PJ.
Yeah,
great illustrator.
Yeah,
exactly. And he's like, I saw your portfolio. Are you interested in moving to New York? And at that time, I didn't know. I was too young and dumb to know about relocation. I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm down. I'm moving to New York, packing up everything and going. I joined agency around fall of '98.
Were we still?
One of the things that really sold me on agency was actually Kyle. One of your projects is Urban Desires, right? I was this is awesome. That this is exactly what designers and creatives can publish content online and have an outlet for this stuff. And I was blown away because it was like really kind of cutting edge Flash work as well, and audio, video, everything that I was kind of thinking of. So I joined. I was on the Online Magic team, the Team Houdini. It was like Kay Johnson, Gwen. I don't know if you guys remember Gwen. Scott was on there. Deanne
Drager. She was on there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love Deanne. She was like
Deanne was amazing.
Dutton, Ian Mignani. John Caruso.
Yeah,
Caruso.
That's
right.
Where's John Caruso now?
He'd just be smoking in his office, like
man,
he was like a rebel.
He was a rock star.
Walk out of his office. I remember all this.
You gotta get those guys on
him,
Yeah, man, he was like, wow.
What happened to Caruso, by the way? Didn't he start his own agency? I think he started.
They started MDC. Ian Mignani, John Caruso, and Dutton. Forget his first name, Dutton. But anyway, they started MDC.
Yeah. Okay. MDC
or MCD.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember that, like, even on Broadway, there was kind of a division. Like, there were the people who were working on BA, and that was
right. That was a separate team. Oh yeah, that's the BA.
That was like, you don't understand, dude. Yeah. You don't understand. Then there was the team. Yeah. Then there was the luxury group. What was their name?
Gucci.com. It was Marisha.
Yeah.
You don't understand either.
And Claudia, exactly.
Yeah. And then you had the rest of us who were like, dude, there's a pitch. Go pitch with Ben. Go pitch this. Go do this. And we're all like, growth, right? So I remember Bill Bloom. I remember, Tracy Skronik. Right. I remember like, no, of course we can do it. Of course we can do it. Absolutely we can do it. I mean, it was
that's one of the things we're seeing on the show is one of the things people talk about it was just like, that's not possible. Well, we'll figure it out, right? So talk about that. What was it like back then? What was the environment? What strikes you about what it was like?
What do you remember?
collaboration, like a very strong sense of collaboration, right? So I thought that was really kind of a very generous environment. It wasn't political. It was very much of a come on in and let's do it.
We're all in this together, I think.
Yeah, there was a very much of like, I remember Ritesh like, oh, I can fix it. And he went into the HTML, you know, I mean, literally. And it was absolutely nuts. Yeah. I remember a lot of smart people, but already like the churn of people at a certain point was just like, what? Where are you going? Hold on, what? So it was really kind of.
When did you start, Arthur? What do you remember? What year?
It was Broadway. 97. Yeah, it was Broadway '97, I believe.
It was at 665 Broadway. I think I came just before you did, or just after you did, one or two.
And then we went to Wall Street.
Yeah.
And the growth was, you know, because we went public. So going public was also kind of the fun thing.
Yeah. Well.
Kinda, and then it was all about like time management. I remember like the software
timesheet,
baby,
timesheet,
utilization.
Yeah,
that was Kevin Rowe's big claim.
Kevin Rowe's big thing.
Utilized.
Oh, what was that timesheet system called again? Didn't Larry Krakauer create that thing?
Yeah, he had or those guys talked
about what was it called?
It's still funny, but no. What I remember is
it was what lawyers used. I think it was the system that was built like
for lawyers. That's
it was the same one that lawyers used. Yeah,
right.
I remember what it was called. I blocked that out of my mind.
Did you do your timesheets, Jackson?
I don't think I did. I think like, did I do my timesheets yet? I think there might be some missing timesheets.
Yeah, I remember Molly. Molly used to send those Friday afternoon emails about timesheets. You know,
did you get timesheets in?
It was amazing.
Yeah. How about you, Jackson? What do you remember? Did you start at 665 Broadway, or did you start when we were at 20 Exchange?
Yeah, I was at 665 Broadway. I think I was in the back of the building next to the NYU part. It was like a Online Magic Team Houdini part. And then we kind of moved around a little bit. But yeah, it was great. I think that, like what the author said, like it was a very flat hierarchy. You know, everybody could bring their creative ideas to the floor, and, you know, we can vet it out. And I really enjoyed like the creative part of it, especially when UI came, and there was an outlet for designers to actually, you know, like I talked about, like, publish, fun projects here and there when on their free time. I think that also that it was the first place where I worked at, where it was like really full stack, our soup to nuts. We could do branding, right? There was like times where we could do that. We can do strategy. We can do front end, back end, creative thinking, guidelines as well. We did a lot of style guides for the companies. The other part that I enjoyed, that I loved about consulting, is that you could jump into different contexts, right? Like working on Compact, and then also during the Compact, like we worked on that project for like 3 years. Like we could see the change management that was happening while they were trying to figure out their, how do we catch up to Dell, right? Yeah. And it was amazing. I mean, I just only saw it from a creative, like can't imagine what they were doing on the strategy front. But being able to really have the, front row seats to that was amazing. Consulting wise, just being able to really understand, the computer industry, then jumping into the airline industry, jumping into like
you went to the BA team. I remember, right? You went to the BA team, right?
Yeah. So I think that gave me, I think just taking lessons from that, I've been able to, in my career now, is just like being able to jump in different contexts and then try to problem solve and figure out what the clients are, all the challenges that they are facing.
It's so funny you say that, because I remember one thing very distinctive was this notion of web in a box.
Oh yeah!
Oh, remember that?
In a box.
That was the BA team. That was
the BA team.
BA team came up with that.
I can't remember, but somebody came literally with a box. And inside was like the CD-ROM.
CD-ROM,
exactly. And you were like, we're going to deploy that around the world. It's called Web in a Box. I was like,
there's a funny story. The precursor to Web in a Box, we'd had this idea, and it was, what's become like, Webflow or, these site building things. We talked about what if you could do it. And as a lark, I registered McWeb.com because I'm like, it'll be like McDonald's. Like you can come in and you can make a website, right? So McWeb.com. So about 4 months after I registered that website, we got a letter from McDonald's Corporation that basically said, don't McFuck with our trademark. Like we will take you down. Like we take our Mc stuff very seriously. So we got cease and desisted by McDonald's. So I think we changed the name to Web in a Box just so we wouldn't get sued.
That's so funny. That's so funny. But I think that's the exciting part, as Jackson said. It was like you were touching upon a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
that a lot of people didn't even consider that it could be integrated or thought of. Right now, everybody. Then for example, when I went to Messner, which was a big traditional ad agency of the '80s, it was like, what do you mean integration? Yeah, it's like, man, you put the guy in the web and the guy from insights, and you put the guy from strategy, and you put the creative. You're trying to make all this happen, and something even better will come out of it. And so it's very interesting.
Probably looked at you like you were from Mars.
Yeah,
they totally did.
Yeah, we love our silos.
But exactly the silo thing, and it's funny because now back in a big corporation where they're still trying to break silos, right? And you're like, whoa. No, we can all do this together. It's okay. Nobody's going to get hurt.
But that was hard. I mean, that was one of the things Ritesh and I talked about a lot in those early days is what is the balance between you want camaraderie amongst the tech team, right? Because, that's their tribe. But at the same time, you need them to work with the creatives, right? So how do you balance creating silos, and where do you create the silos, and what's the priority? Because you have to group people somehow. That was always a big challenge.
Wasn't there the pit or something like that?
Yeah, that was where we did the big red button. Yeah,
in the pit.
The pit was sort of the creative thing where we were mixing, visual and site builders and things like that. But ultimately, we got to sort of integrating everyone.
Jackson, in the game development world, I'm sure it's that way, right? You've got to have the designers and the tech guys all working pretty closely together, right?
It should, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Really?
We're dealing with that right now. At my present company is like, there's going to be teams that have been built like a waterfall method, right? Like actually game development is traditionally more waterfall.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah,
wow.
And I think that I've always, one thing that, we touched on is like, we were sitting together in the pit, and we actually did that at Zynga, and it worked. We were able to do things much quicker because we were much more agile, and we trusted each other, right? And in those agile departments, you had to build trust. Right? You had to trust the next guy next to me, right? And we just look over. It's been particularly hard during, working remotely. To be honest, it's been really hard to run an agile studio. But some teams are built that way. But we're trying to keep it more fluid.
I've got a quick question. Which one of you two came up with the "we need to do bubbles" on the Coca-Cola website? Because that almost killed.
I remember that thing. I remember it was with the little things that were green. Yeah. The fizzle. Right. The fizzle was like a huge thing. Everybody stopped, went and saw the fizzle, and the Flash 5 didn't work, and it fucking crashed. And it was like, you can't fuck up with Coca-Cola. I was so
probably Volker or Jason. They work. I think they were working on a Coke account.
I think that's right.
I mean, it's so funny how you go back into memory lane because suddenly you have those visual of like, I remember everybody like looking at those little droplets. And then we also created those reel, like, the web reel, like where we had all the best creative showcase coming together.
Yeah.
To impress the clients.
Yeah, there was one that was done to a Jimi Hendrix soundtrack. I remember that one quite well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we were launching so much work that it was one of the things that was happening was when we were just doing things sort of linearly, we could do the big red button and you could celebrate a big launch. But there was a point at which we were launching 3 or 4 sites a week, and we realized, Like there's no celebration anymore. It's just cranking this shit out. So those things were to do that. So
the night before launch of a site were the most horrendous times.
Those were amazing. I want to do something here. Jackson sent us some pictures. So,
oh my god!
Yeah. So we've got.
I remember Julie.
These are super cool. Tessia, Folker, Julie, and John.
Yeah.
Tessia.
Then we've got
Mitch.
Ryko, Mitch, yep,
Mitch,
Lucian, and
Yunjin.
Oh, look at that.
Look at Jackson.
Omar.
Look at that. You still look the same, dude.
Dude, you haven't changed. Do you age, Jackson?
You got glasses.
On here?
We all got glasses.
No, that's true.
Less hair.
And then what was this?
Oh my god!
What was the skydiving? I remember.
I don't remember this. Where was I?
Oh,
Right,
so
Kim?
remember? I think we got some like $150 worth of fun money given to everybody in the company.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And then
yeah.
a group of us in the BA team was like, let's do something crazy, right? So we were thinking about, let's go skydiving. And it was only originally 5 of us, and then other people got around, and there ended up being 13 of us. Got on a small plane and jumped, right? This was in New Jersey. We drove out to New Jersey. I think it was 30,000 feet. And so you see, like, there was Elliot. We had to sign papers to say, like, the company's not liable in the case of death or whatever, right? And we jumped,
Wow.
And it was like after we were like, man, that was a bad idea. Like having that many people in one company do this crazy thing.
Oh yeah.
HR would have loved it.
I know the core British Airways team goes to go jumping together.
But
look, there's Elu. Wow.
Yeah. And what's funny? I remember being on the plane, and Julie Lazarus. I don't know if you guys remember Julie.
I remember
Julie Lucas. Sorry, Julie Lucas.
Yeah.
She jumped before I did, but because my jumper and we both together we were probably like 450 pounds, right? So we actually landed before the 2 other people like that jumped out before us. So because just like straight down. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so one of the things I want to talk about next is kind of some of the projects you worked on, but this is really fascinating. So Jackson, you sent this. What's cool about this? This is a screenshot from the Compact site for I think 4 or 5 years running. So this was it in '97. So like what strikes me here is just how simple it was. And I remember our goal in creating these sites was let's make it as simple as possible when you first land there. But
I don't think we did this one. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the one we
probably pre-agency.
No, that was the one we inherited.
That's the one we inherited.
That's what we inherited.
So then
then John Glazer and you guys got your hands on
right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's late '98.
Yeah.
So getting more functional.
Yeah.
Here's 99. Here's 2000. You can start to see the corporate interest going, well, I want my shit on the homepage. And there's 2001. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible.
Such an incredible evolution.
And you see, like in the later years, it became much more editorial.
Yeah.
And I remember on the Compact team, like those little editorial spots was like the most fun part of it. Like just being able to create that little hero image.
Didn't we do a vanity site for the CEO, if I remember correctly? While you guys were doing
Michael Capellas. I remember that.
Michael Capellas.
That's right. Didn't he wanted his own little site? I remember Heather Martin pulling her hair out because she was working on, that big site, but then all of a sudden, wait, we have to do another site? What's this all about? Well, it's the CEO. He wants his own site.
Well, that was where we had Urban Desires. Like we would often point to Urban Desires as, here's the innovative thing. And so I think that led to a lot of people going, oh, I want some editorial stuff and things like that. So yeah.
What was some of the projects, Arthur, you worked on? Did you work on Marriott? No, I don't think you worked on Marriott.
No, I worked a lot on I had a bank. Which bank did we have? I had Colgate-Palmolive.
Oh, Colgate. I remember going to
with
meetings
Bill
at
Bloom,
Colgate.
Bill Bloom and
Chris Stetson was on that.
Yes, exactly.
Stetson was on that.
Then we had a lot of big banks also. Was it Morgan or was it who?
Oh, Goldman.
Oh, it was Goldman, right?
GS.com. You and Ben Jones.
Yeah. There was Goldman Sachs. But what was fascinating is, again, the editorial, and you think of it like from an SEO perspective, that was brilliant. From a search perspective, even though it was so
before any of that existed.
Exactly, but it was really basing all those stuff of like, okay, let's make it super simple. Let's make it type friendly. Like don't use any vector type, or use and it was all like very detailed. But what's so funny now is, even when you're asked, okay, we're going to do this little site, you're like, okay, hold on, who's the IA? Who's going to give me a nightmare?
Right.
Because we remember like the IA department at agency.com, which I thought was brilliant. But for God's sake, the arguments that you would go on with them, because they weren't really creative and they weren't really tech, but they really wanted to be important. But you had
they wanted to be both, yeah.
Oh, you were in the middle of this discussion about like the little syntax of like, ooh, people are going to get lost, and you're like, what are you talking about? The button is this big on the page. It was so good. It was so good.
Wow. But now it's called UX and CX now.
That's why nobody understands me, right? I say, who's the IA? And everybody's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the same thing. They do exactly the same thing, but it's now just called UX now.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. But it was so good because you would see those actually jobs starting to appear, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, an IA before, and then you had to go to like traditional agency and explain that, and they were like, what is it? I was like, it's the blueprint of your site,
of your website.
Oh, that is so good. A blueprint. Yeah,
you mean it'll be a document?
Yeah, exactly. I can print it. You're like, yeah, you can put it on your back wall, and we can. And to the point where, seriously, I mean, this is when I after agency, when I was at Messenger, they would send me like to Ford because we had Volvo as an account, and I was the evaluator of Microsoft content management system. Me, they were like, Arthur, we need you to really, and I was like, guys, just don't know, but why not? Why not Microsoft? It was so good. It was so good. You could reinvent 5 careers at agency.
That's true.
That was the beauty. But to finalize, one final best memory was when the classic, we sent an Excel to the entire team about your vacation. And then we got an email like 2 seconds later. Do not scroll to the right, because there was all the salaries.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was just like that became like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that or not?
Oh, I remember that. I got a call from a reporter about 5 minutes after it was sent out. Like, hey, I just got a spreadsheet forwarded to me. Would you like to comment on that? I'm like, ah!
That was so
I
good.
remember that clearly. Yeah, that was good. Well, Jackson, what about you? What's a project that you worked on that was super inspiring, or like or any highlights from stuff you worked on that you thought was super cool or different?
I had 2 projects. I actually was able to, when I first started, worked on a Urban Desires mini site for, I think the illustrator is called Chris Patterson, but that was like I worked, man. TJ and I've never worked so closely with him. Just like man, I worked so late, like so many late nights, just kind of get that perfect, right? Like with the illustration. The second one was the British Airways kiosk. And I don't know if you guys remember that one.
That was an amazing piece of work. That kiosk was just.
What was it? Describe it. Like what did it do?
So I think so. Basically, it was installed at the JFK terminal. I think it was Terminal 5. And EA owned that terminal.
Yep.
I can't remember. I think his name was Russell. He was like, he said, guys, we have 5 huge touch screens, right? And we want to do something with it, right? So we were like, okay, we can think about what is the passenger looking for as far as before pre-flight, on-flight, and then once they land, right? So we broke it out into those so they could actually, and then also the other piece was like, how do you find the McDonald's or the food where do you get these things, the layout of the map. So we actually literally drew the terminal 5 or terminal 7, the map.
It was
Wow.
terminal 5. There was
Like
three.
Heathrow,
5 layers, if I remember.
the layers, we broke it out.
Yeah.
You can touch, and then you can find out what all the food had. You can find out the menus that they had on the flight, in the movies.
You could pre-order things as well, if I remember. You could say, "Yeah, I want the fish," and you could look at where your seat was on the plane and all of this stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was. I think that really kind of made me think like, man, I really need to work on something that was like got people out of the desktop and be able to, like, the touchscreen part was the coolest thing. And I remember this story was like, midway through the project, we got some bad news, and apparently what happened was the 5 touchscreens that we're working on were stolen. Right?
Oh no!
Yeah, and they said like I think the mafia had to do with something like that, and or some of the people who maintenance crew or something like that.
It was,
and then it was like, don't worry, we're going to replace it.
Yeah.
But it's so great because you're touching on the offline online thing that everybody's talking about, that bridge between. But imagine that, right? It was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were already fully on those things.
Yeah.
So that's what's so cool. It's like, again, no boundaries of trying it out.
Well, there was also none of this, right? You didn't have a computer in your pocket, so that touchscreen was the only way you could get information like that.
And I mean, the touchscreen was probably like a 32-inch or something like that. I mean, imagine technology these days, it would have been massive, right? Yeah. It'd be like scrolling,
yeah. Virtual reality gestures, augmented reality.
And I remember last trip in New York for the reunion, they have those at the MTAs, right? The big touchscreens. I thought that was brilliant, and I remember like, man, why doesn't San Francisco have this? We own this kind of like technology, like New York is doing it before us, especially, well, that's good infrastructure for you, I guess.
There you go. That's the issue. But I do, it is amazing. I still remember that kiosk being launched and everybody going, ooh, and look, you can touch, and because we were so used to the mouse and the interface on the screen and scrolling up and down, and all of a sudden, it was like when the interactive TV guys showed up and they were using the remote to navigate. Yeah. And I was just like, what? You can navigate using a remote? What are you, nuts, right? And then all of a sudden, Dan Sellers is like, yeah, here, let me show you. Look, you can do this. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. And now
I remember creating menu for interactive TV at a certain point.
Yeah.
That was 98, 99.
98, 99. Yeah.
And it was kind of clumsy and big and fat and slow.
Well, yeah, they had their proprietary system. Like it was on some shitty computer in a cable box, basically, right? With a bad operating system. And you're like, you have these 6 functions, go.
But you think of it, and again, it's the application that comes, here we are now with an Apple TV or your DRTV Netflix. Or whatever, or Netflix, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But the one thing, did we do any media? Did we buy media? How did we do it?
We bought a company called iTraffic.
Yeah. That's it. iTraffic.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It was very much an afterthought. We got into the media game very late. We were very much about the creative and the consulting and things like that. And then at some point we realized, people have to get to the website. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, so talk to us about, we all worked in this really remarkable time together, and it's been 25 years, right? We're having reunions and commenting on our hair and glasses. Like what did you carry forward from those days? Like what's inspired you? What's lived on? What's influenced you? What did you leave behind? Either one of you. Jackson, what's your thought?
I think the things I carried on is that physical, like getting away from the laptop, the desktop, being out in the environment, gestural interactions. And that's something that's what kind of moved me toward doing more. I actually, after agency, I went back to grad school to study industrial design, product design. And it was just nice to have, these devices that had a sensor, it had an accelerometer, all the cool things that, you can do. So
Yeah.
I started just kind of taking on that and going to mobile games, so that's what I've been doing for the past 12 years. Things that I left behind is probably will never work in an agency environment. I love the
hasn't learned that
part.
I'm the only
right
one
now
who
it's
doesn't
hard.
seem to have taken that message along. I don't know what's going on with me. I need to fix this,
You-
right? So
you
go on,
really
sorry,
do.
Yeah. So I mean, I have conversation with Troy, and he's telling me all the things that are happening. Like the landscape is changing, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't keep up with this. That's like a whole new world. So yeah, and things are changing with games as well. But things,
Roblox.
the audience are changing. Like now my older women are playing video games now, which is crazy, right? And that's my main demographics for my games is older women, like Candy Crush.
My 82-year-old mother-in-law is playing puzzle and Candy Crush and on her iPad that we sent her because she was on lockdown in England. Yeah. And that's been the lifesaver. She's been on her own in her house, locked down completely, can't leave for a year. Right. And this iPad with this puzzle game and the Candy Crush thing that she plays, it's been a lifesaver for her. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's amazing. Arthur, how about you? What's stuck with you?
Did you take any of the stuff that we used to do at agency to your other agency or creative feed?
Yeah, well, we did. Look, again, the collaborative effort or the collaboration, making people work together for me has been kind of a huge instrumental learning.
Yeah.
The pluridisciplinarity of things, right? Yeah. It's like finding talent, making sure they work together.
Yeah.
Curiosity. I thought that was also something like never stop being curious. Well, it's your nature or how you brought up, but it just, I don't know, that business taught us not to be like compliant onto one thing or just doing one thing only. So I thought that was really cool. The third thing for me was the data. It was really interesting and how to bring that to life a little bit, like showing, dude, man, people are spending more time there or they're clicking more here. What does that mean? What should we emphasize? What's working, not working? I thought that for me was like, we were learning that at agency in the beginning a little bit, like, oh, look, on your website, people came, 1,500 times and suddenly, corporate reputation or, we're like, oh my God, we need to pay attention. So those elements coming together, I even started a business called Share Your Look, and it was prior to the phone. So it was photographing people and what they were wearing in the street.
Oh.
That was in San Francisco, and it was like, but the iPhone didn't exist. So it came to, I had the same problem, Kyle.
Yeah.
Timing.
Yeah. But that was the one we pitched to Lewis Gersh, if you remember, Arthur, right? We had Lewis on the show.
Exactly.
And he was talking about this Share Your Look thing. Yeah,
and so,
that's right.
And so it's fun. I mean, I think, again, the people and following, I don't know, just the mindset is what I believe carried with, and not being scared of new stuff.
Right.
I think a great Arthur Ceria story for you, Kyle. I got a call one day. Hey, we've got this region of France, Bordeaux, and we're working with them now to promote them in the US. And can we put a sommelier on the phone in front of somebody as they're looking for wine? And we need it built. Can you do it?
I remember that. You're right. And we had the virtual sommelier.
We had the virtual sommelier. Remember that? People thought you were crazy, but we did it.
We did it. And people
that's a new idea.
It.
Especially in these days.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but you're right. I totally forgot about that. The wine tasting virtually.
Yeah, we also did for the California Almond Board, there was some workout personality dude, and we basically just wrote an email responder, like it was a timed email responder thing where you would sign up for this thing, and then he would email you to try to keep you healthy. And what I remember was this was just like, wait a week, send this email, wait 2 weeks, send that one. But what started happening was people thought he was really emailing them. So we were getting emails back like, hey, Tony, or whatever his name was, thanks for the advice. Here's my update on what I'm doing. I'm like, oh my God.
Subservient chicken before the hour.
There you go.
Yeah, unbelievable.
What do you keep? What's the best memory, Ritesh?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. There's so many. But, the one I will always remember, Folkert and Jason, one day, I was sitting in the cafeteria. It was me and Mitch and Chris and a couple of the tech guys. We were talking about something. And these guys came over. Guys, there's this thing called Flash. You got to check it out. And Mitch was like, oh, my God. Yeah. And they were just so excited about Flash and what it could do, and it's amazing. And they left. We were like bloody creatives. They're coming up with new ideas every day. I mean, what the heck is this about, right? And before you know it, we're all embracing it. So I remember that so vividly.
Yeah,
Jason and Folkert just wandering around together. Those two just never went anywhere without each other, and they just loved Flash.
Yeah. Well, and they also, I mean, they took, we talk about that experiential marketing thing in Nike Town. That first Gucci site that we did, you reminded me of this, Ritesh, where, they said, oh, we should do something in Flash. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And they came back and they've got, Kate Moss sort of emerging from the black mist. And it was like, oh, that's Flash? Like, this is. Like it was cool. Truly experiential stuff. Yeah. And I honest to God feel that a huge amount of the web has gotten so transactional that we've lost a lot of that experiential stuff. Yeah. I think the experiential stuff has shifted to phones and phones and gaming and things like that. But websites in general have lost a lot of that thinking and imagination because it's all gotten so, commerce, transactions, data, follow the clicks.
But at the same time, when you think of it, look at the access of entertainment we have nowadays.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, like just the fact, I was just thinking that you have the subscription model, right? You have the Netflix, you have the Hulu, you have the HBO Max, you have the whatever else. And you're just like, how can one have enough time?
Well, yeah, you can't, because what's also, if you look at what's happening with NFTs right now, the creator market, like the centralization of how creators get paid is now being blown apart as well. So it's going to, explode, exponentially. Even more, right? It's so audiences are increasingly fragmented, but that's also super exciting, right? I think we're in a new renaissance where there's all these tools where it's easy to create stuff. It's easy to create apps, like the whole no-code movement. NFTs are going to get easier and easier to create and functionalize. And so anyway,
but it's fascinating because if I work for a big agency now, right? So when I go to meetings and the creative guys will come out with, here's a persona we've come up with. I'm like, yeah, okay. And this is a journey. Look, it's this airline that we work with, and they literally have come up with a journey. I went and dusted off the British Airways journey in 1997.
You mean like this?
Like the blueprint? Do you want the blueprint of the journey? Hold on.
And they thought I was a genius. Like, whoa, where'd you get that? How do you know the customer so well? I'm like, because it's a guy who buys airline tickets and he travels a lot.
I remember I was super excited. We came up with the blueprint metaphor. And one of the problems we always had in showing website creative is you'd show someone something and it wouldn't quite communicate. So they couldn't separate the visual from the information design. So I remember I got so excited. I'm like, okay, we're only going to present information designs as blueprints. So it'll be with blue lines and blueprint things. And then that will communicate that, you're just looking at the plans here. This is not the thing. I remember the first one we did, I'm there, I'm presenting this whole thing. I'm super excited. And the response was, I don't know if I like the blue. And I was like, no.
Oh
She's
my
like,
gosh.
are the letters going to look like that? I'm like, no. Yeah, there's just reality is sometimes scary.
Kyle, you talked about, I remember back in the day, were you the one that said about the blueprint, maybe it looked like more of the Disney map?
Yeah.
Right?
That was it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you see that as more of experience than actually like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the whole idea that one of the things that hit me, I had a whole thing, we called these things web pages, but what you're actually doing is entering a brand. You're entering an experience over time. And I was like, oh, entering a brand, that's like Disney World, right? So the whole idea there was, what if you thought about a website as a brand experience, like you would design a theme park? And then if you do that, you think about it very, very differently than here's a collection of pages I'm linking to. Because it's all metaphors. It's all just bits on a screen. So we can make up whatever shit we want. We still call them pages. I failed at my metaphor transition strategy, but whatever.
The other memory is when I think it was like my first week or two going to London and meeting Esther and Margot on the BA team to go see BA, and coming back and explaining to Mitch and Ralph that BA now wants to sell tickets online. And they looked at me like, you want to do what? Like, yeah, we want to book the actual ticket and take a credit card payment.
Yeah.
And they literally left.
Yeah. Because it was like this one system that cannot talk to this system, and they had to talk, and they're like, well, you can't do that. We're like, well, we told them we could, so figure something out.
Well, Esther and Margot and Kay said we can.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Ralph Seaman almost.
They wrote us a check, so we're going to do it now.
I remember that so vividly. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
So, I mean, but we did, you know what? We did it.
Yeah.
We sold 30% of the tickets online. We did it, right?
Yeah.
And that was, I think, to your point, Arthur, is that curiosity and the camaraderie to say, okay, well, let's go figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So creative, you've got to now figure out a new user interaction of taking them through a path of buying this. And IT guys, tech guys, you've got to figure out how you're going to get me that data to put into this little form that I'm going to have to
here's the box. And to Jackson's point, there was, you're talking about the pride of doing that Urban Desires piece till late in the night. There wasn't like the sense of time. It wasn't like we're overworking people. It was like, there's a problem to solve and I'm still conscious. So we're going to go until we solve it. Like that was very much it. So anyway, well, this is
sandbox for our ideas, for doing some flash things and if it's something that we can try out, I mean, that's something that we can take into real applications for, our clients.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing I brought through. I have it's funny now. I'm sort of sought after, but 5 years ago, I put an innovation lab in at Ogilvy when I joined, and it was a makerspace. We've got, you name it, we have it in there: touchscreens, voice, HoloLens, HTC Vive, the whole thing. And only the tech guys and some creatives would do things in there. Now everybody wants access to it.
Interesting.
Like, we have this? When did we get this? I'm like, 5 years ago.
Oh man! Well, guys, this has been absolutely amazing. It's great
to catch up with you guys. Jackson, you do
same
not
here.
age. We need to do something.
I know, man.
I think we need to move to Redondo Beach. I think that's probably why he doesn't age.
I know.
No, it has to be in New York. You got to go to New York. That party. I don't know when the next one is, but that was the best party I could. Last year, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
This shows a result of that thing, because we were like, we got a little drunk and we're like, we got to do more of these
stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that reunion party, I felt like it was like late 90s. Like everybody was talking, hugging, drinking, no cell phones, no selfies. Nothing was shared online besides, in the group photo.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was really amazing,
We didn't invite Arthur, so don't tell him.
Missed that one.
Oh. Next time.
Yeah, no.
We'll come to Denver.
You were in
Oh, yeah.
France
We'll
with
go
the
to
wife
Denver.
and kids. I remember this because you were like, "Dude, really? Change the
Yeah.
date." I'm like, "I can't change the date. There's 300 people coming."
But I love the fact that you guys are still doing multitude of things.
Well,
Like, you know, between the DJ Ritesh and the Kyle still trying to, you know, a new platform for video. I mean, it's
Yeah, I know.
fantastic, guys. It's fucking great.
Thank you. Well, it's great to see you. Listen, I
Great to
gotta
see you
run.
guys.
I'm late for a meeting. I do have the day job calling at me, so let me go do
Me
that.
too. Me
Great
too.
seeing
Thank
you.
you.
Take care, bye.
Cheers, everybody.